So, guys, I've decided that since this month's already almost over, and that Thanksgiving is drawing near, I figured I'd give you guys a 2-for-1 this year. I figured I'd cover two killer turkey movies this year. The first one being tonight's movie, which is a 1972 splatter horror film that is called Blood Freak, and the sequel to Thanksgiving 3. So tonight's movie, Blood Freak, is about a biker who ends up being turned into a giant turkey monster to like kill drug dealers, I guess. It's like an after school special horror film, an anti-drug and like anti-Christianity splatter film, I guess. Um This turkey also apparently feeds off the blood of drug dealers. This sounds interesting. Let's check it out. Well, shit. Am I glad that's over? So, as you guys could tell, I'm doing a new kind of format for my videos. Recording the intro, then watching the film, then reviewing. So, obviously. So, now we get to where the movie begins. This movie starts with shots of blood and water, with titles and credits and the obnoxiously loud sound of bubbling water in the background. But we get this guy who's talking about modern society and all this other shit, and then we have a guy that's on a motorcycle as the credits continue, and he goes home with this woman, and her sister does drugs, and the camera's really bad and shaky, and it almost seems like someone with Parkinson's is handling the camera. We arrive, so they get to the base of this big drug party. Everybody's smoking pot and doing, doing heroin and crazy shit like that. And the one sister who he picked up is all Christian and shit, and she's annoying as fuck. This film kind of goes on with really uninteresting and boring conversations among these very lifeless and boring characters. And at this point, I was only about 10 minutes into the film, and I was already, I didn't even want to finish it, but I did. I watched it. It was horrible, but I sat through it. So then the guy from the beginning who did the intro thing shows up again, and he talks about how this young Christian girl is gonna has become a drug addict or something. Then the biker smokes some pot, yada yada yada, not much happens. There's a lot of bad editing and sex to add to the boring nature of this film. Even the sex scenes are really boring and badly edited. More interruptions, and that's where I kind of stopped. I couldn't take it anymore. For a film called Blood Freak, it isn't that bloody or freaky. This film's slow, boring, badly edited and shot. The film is really a pro-Christian, anti-drug, and human experimentation splatter horror film of some kind. It's not a brilliant satire. It's not an entertaining propaganda film like Reaper Madness. It's just a bad movie. I mean, it's badly acted, badly written. And it doesn't really get entertaining, at least even the slightest, until about an hour in. And yeah, the effects are pretty bad. Really, the movie's just not bad enough to be good, and it's not good enough to be interesting, or interesting even in the slightest. Um, yeah, and as I've said before, the writing's bad, the acting's bad. We have very shallow characters, very lifeless, boring characters here. And you guys know that when it comes to movies, bad acting, bad writing, boring characters, as long as the film is entertaining, I will give it a good review. But when a movie isn't entertaining and it has all these things, it only makes it worse. Now, this movie isn't as bad as, like, Begotten, or Dumpster Baby, or the Vomit Gore trilogy, but it's still pretty bad, considering the only really entertaining parts is when the chick has sex with the turkey monster, and then the few people get killed by it. But those scenes are very, very far and few from in between. So, also this turkey monster, it isn't a killer turkey, it's literally a guy in a turkey mask. It's a cheesily made and badly kind of funny mask, but it's still pretty bad, and not in a good way. Did I forget to mention that this film is very headache-inducing? It does the same thing that a lot of other films did, in a lot of other horror films did in the 70s. Instead of recording new sound effects or different sound effects and using them, they decided to do the very, very annoying and idiotic thing of using the same sound effects over and over and over and over. This happens 3 or 4 times throughout the movie, and each time it's like a few minutes at a time, and it's very, very annoying, and it gave me a headache. First, we have the gobbling sound of the turkey monster, as well as the turkeys on the turkey farm. Now, it's maybe 2 or 3 different gobbles, but they're playing them all simultaneously, and this is for like a 10-minute long scene. It isn't very helpful. At least the turkey monster guy doesn't gobble that much, I can give it that much. But it's very, very loud and obnoxious. Again, we have very loud, kind of repeated screaming of the same scream over and over and over again, while the characters are obviously screaming something completely different. I would definitely compare it to the scene in The Headless Eyes, a film that I reviewed um, like a few months ago, maybe even almost a year ago. Like, I want to say at least 9 months ago I reviewed this movie, where the killer, after he gets his eye accidentally kind of scooped out or stabbed, it's literally him screaming, my eye, for about 5 minutes, and it is the same loop of him screaming, my eye. And it's at the same volume, and it just goes on and on and on. Yeah. On the gore meter from 1 to 10, 1 being something like the Corpse Grinders, and 10 being something like Brain Dead. Blood Freak is probably a 4, maybe 4.5. Really, it's not even as gory as like Blood Feast. It's less gory than Blood Feast, which is a little bit surprising, honestly. The effects are really bad. They're a lot of pink blood, stuff like that. And I mean, the effects aren't even bad enough to be entertaining. They're just bad enough to be not really that interesting. Much like my problem with Mardi Gras Massacre, most of the death scenes were exactly the same. And they were basically using the same effects for every single scene. That was it. Really, I wouldn't suggest this movie to anybody. I couldn't suggest this to my worst enemies. It's really not worth anybody's time. I mean, if you were to cut like 90% of this movie out and Just leave the parts with the chick having sex with a turkey monster and the few death scenes, and just left that probably about 10 minutes of this an hour and 20-minute long film, then maybe, just maybe, it'd be watchable. But it's really not watchable. At least, I mean, at the maximum, I could give this 1 star. Minimum a half. It's not. I mean, I can say that they tried at least, and I can definitely see how someone could like this movie, but it's no Worm Eaters. It's not as weird as the Worm Eaters is, sadly. Anyway, guys, I'm Biscuit Boo 69. All the description, all the links to the Facebook page, Twitter account, official Tumblr, everything are in the description below. Check those out, as well as Rotten Cotton T-shirts. Be sure to support them. They supply my horror T-shirts. They're very, very cool. And yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm Biscuit Boo 69, signing off. Peace.